Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the Trinidad and Tobago's opposition media briefing, where this morning we will be discussing the recent High Court decision involving police promotions and other matters of national security. This morning, the panel will be led by MP Saddam Hosein, Shadow for AG and Legal Affairs, and Mr. Jagdeo Singh, Attorney at Law. Stay tuned as we begin at 10 a.m. sharply.
No more rain, no more rain, no more rain, no more rain. No left foot, right foot again. No more struggle, no more strain, no more pain. We want to see we way, we want a brighter day. No more Rowley again. Bye bye Rowley, bye bye, bye bye Rowley, bye bye. We're not voting for you. We tired of the bloodshed, tired of the taxes, tired of the potholes and all the excuses. Tired of no water, tired of stretching a dollar, tired of the high grocery bills. No left foot, right foot again. No more struggle, no more strain, no more pain. We want to see we way, we want a brighter day. No more Rowley again. Bye bye Rowley, bye bye, bye bye Rowley, bye bye. We're not voting for you. We tired of the bloodshed, tired of the taxes, tired of the potholes and all the excuses. Tired of no water, tired of stretching a dollar, tired of the high grocery bills. No left foot, right foot again. No more struggle, no more strain, no more pain. We want to see we way, we want a brighter day. No more Rowley again. Bye bye Rowley, bye bye, bye bye Rowley, bye bye. We're not voting for you. No more rain, 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 no more rain. No left foot, right foot again. No more struggle, no more strain, no more pain. We want to see we way, we want a brighter day. No more Rowley again. Bye bye Rowley, bye bye, bye bye Rowley, bye bye. We're not voting for you. Bye bye Rowley, bye bye, bye bye Rowley, bye bye. We're not voting for you.
The UNC built 106 schools, gave thousands of free laptops, textbooks, and scholarships. We expanded GATE and skills training, constructed the Debe UWI campus, the Nursing Academy, the Aviation campus, the Drilling Academy, and the Couva Children's Hospital. We created the Children's Life Fund, the Children's Authority, and over 55,000 new jobs. Vote for a leader who loves you and your children. Vote UNC.
We stand united in the belief that if you empower a community, the community empowers the country.
We are the party that gave every child a secondary school education since 2001.
By building more schools in 11 years than others did in 40. We believe that no child,
Rich or poor, should be left behind.
which is why we give every 4-month student a laptop to expand their minds and their dreams.
We are the party that put police cars back on the streets.
And gave the police a $1,000 bonus because we believe that we should support the persons who are protecting you.
We are the party that reduced the murder rate to its lowest in 14 years. We expanded GATE, stopped the property tax, and increased maternity leave.
We are the party that invested in you and your community. by investing in schools, community centers, lighted parks, 24-hour health centers, and the most extensive road repair program in decades.
We believe that education is always a solution and that no one should have to pick between sending their child to school or buying food.
We are the party that works for you. We are the first responders in every situation, working to deliver a better standard of living for you and your family.
And most importantly, we have confidence in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a campaign, it's a movement based on building communities and strengthening families.
Come out and join us, and together we will get the nation working and moving again. Our children will once again have access to gate and technology.
We will improve healthcare
By cutting the time it takes to see a doctor in an emergency. We will establish a senior citizen unit in every major hospital and staff the hospital with the doctors and nurses you need to create a first-class healthcare system. We will focus on creating high-paying jobs, fixing our laws to remove red tape, and ensuring that you and your family are safer. We will reduce corporate taxes to jumpstart the economy, create a special investment zone along the East-West corridor, and work with entrepreneurs to build a digital economy. This is an investment in your community to move the nation forward and get TNT working again.
Whether you are from 4th Street in Barataria to Railway Road in Dow Village, from Green Street in Tunapuna to Clark Road in Dibay, from La Hoqueta to Moruga, from Mayaro to Scarborough, we are one people with the same dreams of a better tomorrow. And when we stand together, we win together. We are UNC and proud.
But one of the things I promised is that we will listen to what's happening around, and we've been listening, and whatever we could have done, we've been doing so far. You're bigger than what I remember you last time, so we're standing up to make a difference in this country, boy. You know, and we're interested in making sure that in San Fernando West, we are listening to what the issues are. I just talked to Supers there, he tell me about the water situation on that side. In speaking with all of our constituents in San Fernando West, crime was highlighted, issues of drainage, garbage collection, and we spoke to the Alderman Viliana Ramota Singh and all our councillors, and they really went to the city and ensured that something was done about it. The team here is in San Fernando West. We are on the ground, so I want to see what's happening around West St. Joseph with my friend Devish.
Davis Maharaj, I'm the UNC candidate. West St. Joseph. What's your name?
Braffett.
Braffett?
Yeah.
Braffett, how old are you, boy?
68.
Nah.
As a young man.
He's okay, 52, boy.
We started building back here before too much went on the other side that we had to come down to 1st Street. So, like somebody know the minister, and they get box trains and paved road and all kind of stuff up to the drain. We on the other side of the drain. You know the story about the other side of the tracks. We on the other side of the drain. So we ain't getting fixed up and we getting flooded. I would just like to know that we have somebody there who we can talk to.
Right now we are on 7th Street, Mount Lambert. I have met so many lovely people on this street. Very reserved, some of them, but they've all come out and they've given us very, very encouraging comments. Some of them have openly declared their support, for which I am very, very thankful. Others at least saying they will consider and think about it, but really, really a wonderful community. I have had no pushback from anybody whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's very, very welcoming. Thank you very much. When UNC win, everybody wins.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the opposition's media briefing on this Wednesday, 26th of February 2025. This morning, we will be discussing the recent High Court decision involving the police promotions and other matters of national security. This morning, I will be joined by a very prominent attorney at law in Trinidad and Tobago, who is no stranger to the bar. He has been called to the bar for over 35 years. In 1989, he has done hundreds of death row appeals in the Court of Appeal in Trinidad and Tobago, also called to the bar of Guyana and Grenada. He has done advisory work in Antigua and in Barbados. He's a fighter for justice, for fairness, and transparency. And most recently, he was one of the lead counsels in the matter involving Mr. Mark Hernandez against the Commissioner of Police, where that decision of the High Court delivered by Justice Frank C. Prasad quashed the promotions of 169 police officers to the First Division, causing serious implications with respect to the administration of the service. So it is my privilege to share this platform this morning with Mr. Jagdeo Singh to deliver his remarks and his observations on this very important judgment involving the quashing of those police promotions involving Mr. Mark Hernandez and the Commissioner of Police. Mr. Singh.
Good morning, members of the media. Good morning for those who are tuned on, listening on the social media platforms. First of all, I want to thank Saddam for that somewhat extravagant, if not perhaps hyperbolic introduction of me, some of which is perhaps thoroughly unjustified, but I thank him nevertheless. The issue which we intend to raise this morning is one which is a troubling issue and one which has beset the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for a number of years now. One needs only to do a search of the judgments held by the Supreme Court Library to realize that every time a round of promotion comes up, it is somehow involves a legal imbroglio of sorts. There are dozens of cases which the promotion process is continuously challenged. The reason why this case has taken on such a degree of prominence is that the learned judge found in favor of the claimants on all three aspects of the claimant's case. The claimant had brought a challenge. Inspector Hernandez, together with Inspector Weaver, had brought a challenge, challenging the process on three different grounds. One, the constitution of the panels. Two, the failure of the consultant to receive the performance management appraisal system scores on a timely basis. And thirdly, the moving of the goalposts insofar as the threshold was concerned in the middle of the process. So, by way of brief facts, what the judge found was that even though the requirement in the legislation and the regulations mandated that the consultant receive the scores on the performance appraisal system prior to determining which candidates were eligible to sit the exam and then move on to the oral stage, the consultant, under cross-examination, admitted several important things. And this, I will get to this consultant and the role this consultant has played in the continuously evolving promotion process debacle with an increasing level of seriousness in shortly. But the consultant admitted, getting back to the point, the consultant admitted that the firm did not receive the scores on a timely basis. The second concession made, which was in direct contradiction of the statute and the regulatory framework. The second and perhaps more important concession, which both Deputy Commissioner of Police Natasha George and the consultant Anthony Watkins, the firm of Odyssey Limited, led by Anthony Watkins, admitted in cross-examination that they decided unilaterally to do away and dispense with the 50% qualification mark, which was a threshold item. So for way of context, the mark is set so as to determine the top performers who are eligible to move on to oral examination. Because there's a very good reason for that. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The oral examination can be subjectively weighted. But we know for a fact that the performance manual system and the examination system are objective and as transparent as you can get. So what they did is that they established a 50% mark, and the timeline is very important. On the affidavits, the admitted evidence was that at the first meeting, they established the 50% mark. Then, for some unknown reason, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Social Welfare Association approached DCP Natasha George and brought to her attention a judgment which, in the view of the president, said it was illegal to establish a pass mark threshold. The Deputy Commissioner of Police, rather than seeking specialist legal advice, said that she consulted the head of the legal department of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, who gave her the green light to instruct the consultant to remove the threshold mark. The consultant then removed the threshold mark. There is a variance of the evidence. DCP George said that she instructed him. The consultant said it was suggested to him and he considered it. And there are many permutations that flow from that. They then removed the threshold mark. So that allowed all 169 officers to sit the exam, which is in direct contradiction to the regulatory framework. The judge so found that breached it. The third breach was that each panel ought to have comprised persons with experience in policing. The judge found that that requirement was also breached. So there you have a situation where a consultant hired by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has committed several errors. Even if the consultant was instructed or asked to consider this by the Deputy Commissioner of Police, the question remains, why did the consultant not seek independent legal advice? At the end of the day, it is the consultant's remit to determine who are the top performers. And here you are, being instructed by a deputy commissioner for administration to do away and to dispense with what you set as a threshold indicator to determine who the top performers are. You then simply slavishly and blindly follow the instructions of the deputy commissioner without seeking legal advice. And I want to get back to why I say that this consultant and the role of this consultant becomes a matter of sharp focus. In November of 2023, a promotion exercise was conducted in which some 900 odd constables were promoted to the rank of corporal. Sorry, I beg your pardon. This promotion exercise came about as a result of two pieces of litigation that were filed in court. There's a judgment of Jennifer Sanchez and others, 28 others, versus the Commissioner of Police and the Promotion Advisory Board, delivered by Mr. Justice James on the 29th of October 2024. And this judgment is important because what happened is that the Promotion Advisory Board, which is the board which sits for promotion within the 2nd Division of the Police Service was not convened for 14 years. And it can't be stressed too much how important that is. 14 years, no promotion advisory board sat for the promotion of constable to corporal. 2 cases were filed. Pursuant to the litigation, in answer to the litigation, the promotion advisory board was convened and the promotion exercise took place in November of 2023. The affidavit of Mr. Anthony Watkins admits, as part of his resume, at page 5, paragraph 8, subparagraph G. This is what he says, and these are his words in giving his resume as to his history. Consultancy services to coordinate the promotional assessment process for approximately 2,300 police constables in the 2nd Division of the TTPS 2023. The consultant provided an independent management consultant to be a member of the Promotions Advisory Board that conducted interviews that accounted for 25% of the total assessment mark for each candidate. And this is where we get to the real mischief of what I am going to allude to. The compilation and validation, and these are the words, this is not my words, this is Mr. Watkins' words. The compilation and validation of all relevant scores for each candidate, including the performance appraisal scores, which are accounted for 40% of the total assessment, and the examination scores, which there's an error here, a grammatical error, which will accounted for, which should have been different, but I'm reading the exact words of the affidavit, for 35% of the total assessment. The development and submission of order of merit lists for the rank of police corporal based on the results of the promotional process. This promotion exercise took place pursuant to a list generated by Odyssey Consulting, of which Mr. Anthony Watkins is the principal, and he says so in his affidavit. These are not my words, these are his words. I am the Chief Executive Officer, Principal Consultant of Odyssey Consult, Inc. Limited. After this merit list was generated and the promotion exercise took place, a hue and cry was made because it became quite apparent that that list was a flawed list. Another set of litigation was filed because the police service was tardy in disclosing the order of merit list. And in an affidavit sworn to by Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru, Deputy Commissioner of Police Administration, sworn to on the 29th of February 2024, from paragraphs 12 to 21, DCP Samaru sought to explain the errors that were generated in that merit list. So what happened, and we will pass copies of this to the media, what happened is that the merit list was so fundamentally flawed that officers who ranked some 700 points below officers were promoted to the rank of corporal. So in one of the most glaring examples of it, an officer who ranked, I think it might be 1,600 or 1,700 on the order of merit list, was promoted ahead of officers who ranked 900 or 1,000 or 1,100. Then what happened? The system was so flawed that officers' marks were deducted in circumstances where they were entitled to take their leave, they were on sick leave, they were on injury leave, some of them were on maternity leave, in direct contradiction to the Maternity Protection Act, which forbids any public office from discriminating against a person who takes maternity leave. But you see, it gets worse than that. This occurs in November of 2023. The contract for the Hernandez, the first division assessment was then given to Odyssey in July of 2024. So here it is, you have a consulting firm which has made a complete hash. They've thoroughly messed up a process involving thousands of officers, then being given a contract to do the same thing some 7 months later. And not only that, this is the same firm that has been involved in every promotional exercise into the first division, and we now know from the affidavit into the second division as well. So in a somewhat monopolistic context, they have done the consultancy for the TTPS, and we know 2 of which, at least, have been completely undermined by the incompetency of this consulting firm. The issue which arises now is, what is the remuneration that was paid to this consulting firm, and what are the steps being taken to recover this money? So that raises very, very important questions. Whether or not similar errors were committed in all the promotional exercises to the first division. And it doesn't stop there, you know, because there are 2 other cases which are pending. At paragraph 15 of the Watkins affidavit, he outlines 4 promotional exercises which Odyssey is involved in. A, 30 senior superintendents eligible for the promotion to the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. There is litigation currently before the courts on the same basis as the Hernandez litigation with regard to the promotion from the rank of Senior Superintendent to Assistant Commissioner of Police. B, 36 superintendents eligible for promotion to the rank of Senior Superintendent. There is also litigation involved in that. Then you had recently a promotion exercise where some 100 sergeants were promoted. That may also be the source of litigation, because I would hazard a guess that Odyssey was also involved in that. So what you have is a consulting firm, not with a long history of success, but with a long history and proven track record of incompetence, being successfully awarded contracts in a monopolistic context to undertake promotional exercises which have now been struck down by the courts. And for completeness of information, the departmental order on which the 2,300 constables, the 900 constables were promoted to the rank of corporal, was struck down by Mr. Justice James in this judgment delivered in October of 2024. The learned judge ordered a new merit list, a revised merit list based on a revised departmental order to be produced. That has not been done, but in all fairness, the state has filed an appeal and an application for a stay. There is also an important issue that arises here with regard to the conduct of Deputy Commissioner Natasha George. And there are 2 things. I want firstly to pay tribute to my co-counsel who appeared in this case and who was, for all intents and purposes, the intellectual driving force behind this case, Mr. Gerald Ramdeen. It would be remiss of me if I did not pay tribute to Mr. Ramdeen in this forum for this case. But the conduct of Deputy Commissioner Natasha George is conduct which must attract the attention of the Police Service Commission, which is tasked with the duty to conduct disciplinary inquiries with regard to officers of the 1st Division. So here it is you have DCP Natasha George being presented with a judgment by Mr. Dixon, and all of this is admitted on the evidence. It's referred to in the judgment of Mr. Justice C. Prasad, saying, look, the criteria which you have set, this judgment says it's illegal. DCP George then goes to the head of legal, I'm at the risk of being repetitive, but it's such an important issue. Head of legal of the TTPS, no requisition for advice from external counsel, no requisition, it's such an important issue, no attempt to obtain the advice of specialist counsel, no attempt to obtain the advice of senior counsel. You simply go and you instruct the consultant to remove that requirement. Now, if you read the judgment of the learned judge was very scathing in his criticism of the conduct of DCP Natasha George. And this is to be found between paragraph 76 onwards of the judgment. And I just want to read what the judge says. The witness's assertion that she did not want to produce the PMAS for other officers for fear that the information may have been calculated is devoid of merit. Even if such a concern presented, the names on those reports could have been redacted so as to protect the privacy of specific orders. And then the judge goes on to quote some law with regard to the obligation of a respondent in public law proceedings to comply with rules of disclosure. And this is what the judge says. The judge says, where a party deprives the court of relevant evidence, the court is entitled to make the most adverse of inferences. Such a presumption is based upon the notion that if the contents of the documents were favorable to the party, the documents would be disclosed to the court in support of the party's case. This court, in the circumstances, is inclined to hold that the reason why no PMAS with a grade other than outstanding was produced is likely due to the fact that no such PMAS existed. And then, paragraph 75 is perhaps the most damning of the observations of the learned judge. Guided by the approach outlined by the Judicial Committee in Reed and Charles, the court formed the view that DCP George's statement that she provided to attorneys for acting for the TTPS, the PMAS, for several officers who were not in receipt of an outstanding grade was unlikely and probably disingenuous. So here it is, you have a deputy commissioner of police in charge of administration being found by a judge of the High Court of being disingenuous in evidence. The issue arises now, what is the Police Service Commission going to do? Acting on its own accord, or as lawyers like to say in Latin, ex proprio motu. What is the obligation of the Police Service Commission to take action with regard to DCP Natasha George? And secondly, is the TTPS going to continue to retain a consultant with a proven track record of failure and incompetence? And I think my colleague MP Hosein has some figures on how, preliminary figures on how much this consulting firm has been paid. Now, bearing in mind, this consulting firm has been retained in every single promotion exercise. One can only imagine what lies ahead and what has not been disclosed. Look, I want to be very frank with you all. I am involved in all of this litigation, so obviously I and interests to serve in bringing forward all of this material. But having said that, I want to place on record that this continuously evolving and worsening debacle of promotion problems within the TTPS presents a grave risk to the morale and motivation of the police service as on a whole. I want to place on record that a very, very high percentage of police officers are honest, decent, hard-working professionals who want to do the best that they can. But where you have a situation where the upper echelons of the administration of the police service tolerates incompetence and promotes on the basis of subjectivity rather than a fair, transparent, and equitable system fairly applied across the board, it demotivates, demoralizes, and demoralizes a large sector of the police service. But you know, ultimately what it does is that it undermines public confidence in the TTPS, because the public then feels that the senior officers ascend the ranks of the service primarily because of favoritism, or as I like to say sometimes, some perceived political propinquity. That is a notion that must be dispelled. The only way you can achieve that is that, having regard to the history of what has occurred, is that there has to be an amendment to the law. There has to be the creation of a system and an independent body that tries to remove as far as possible all elements of subjectivity, all elements of favoritism, all elements of bias, all elements of victimization. What needs to happen is that an independent body needs to be established so that the system is easily reviewable, that officers can know exactly what is taking place. Once the goalposts have been planted, the consultant and the deputy commissioner acting collusively cannot move the goalposts to the detriment of officers, or so as to attempt to favor others who have failed. And I want to make it clear, this judgment was brought to the attention of DCP George only after the results of the written examinations were conveyed to the officers, and persons had failed, had not attained the 50% mark. It is only after that that this judgment was brought to the attention of the DCP, of the Deputy Commissioner of Police. If it is that the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Social Welfare Association knew of this judgment, why did he wait so long after the results were published to each officer, and after he realized that certain persons had failed the examination, to bring this to the attention of the Deputy Commissioner? Why not bring it from the very beginning when the threshold mark was announced at the first meeting? Why didn't he say, hey, Mr. Consultant, hold up here? The Wayne Boy judgment says something else. So before the process had started, that issue could have been resolved. No. What happened is no one brought that judgment to the attention of the consultant or the deputy commissioner. But lo and behold, when the results are announced, certain people failed, the judgment is brought to the attention, no independent legal advice is sought outside the confines of the TTPS. The affidavit doesn't say which officer in the TTPS, it doesn't disclose the advice given, whether the advice was oral or whether it was in writing. None of that is disclosed. But you instruct the consultant to move the goalposts in the middle of the match. That's what happened here. And the consultant, although supposed to be independent, has become administratively malleable and pliable, and has complied with the request of the deputy, with the instructions. She says it's an instruction. He says it's a request. But plainly, it's an instruction. Without question, which has now resulted in the complete upending of a process which, incidentally, the importance of this process is that it provides the leadership of the police service. That begs the question, was there an ulterior motive in attempting to move the goalposts? Who were the persons who would not have been qualified to move on to the next phase? And why was this decision taken in secret, without consultation and without disclosing to the general membership? So I think I've taken quite a lot of time, but I want to end by saying that the ball is now in the court of the TTPS to determine whether or not it is going to continue to retain a consultant with a proven track record of incompetence, inefficiency, and failure to conduct its promotion exercise, or whether they are going to move on to get a new consultant who perhaps will bring a measure of administrative probity to restore public confidence in the process. And far more importantly, what is the Police Service Commission going to do with Natasha George, who in euphemistic language of a High Court judge has been found to be disingenuous? And I'm going to stick to the language of the judge. People can make what they want of what the judge means by disingenuous. But quite frankly, I think the old adage, walks like a duck, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, most likely it's a duck. Disingenuous is a synonym for another word, perhaps less harsh. What is the Police Service Commission going to do? And as I end, I want to make the call for reform of the police service promotion exercise. Very high percentage of police officers are decent, hard-working, honest people who are deeply motivated to serve this country and to restore the balance of the national security of this country. Why are they continuously victimized, and why are they continuously discriminated against in promotion processes which are continuously shown up to be inefficient and inefficiently and incompetently administered? These officers in the 2nd Division, primarily constable to corporal, corporal to sergeant, sergeant to inspector, are the ones who actually do the crime fighting on the ground. If you demotivate and demoralize these officers by continuously depriving them of their hard-earned promotional prospects, do you think you're going to motivate them to go out there and take the fight to the criminal element? The answer to that is obviously no. So the answer lies in a reformation process. And the first thing that must happen is this incompetent and inefficient consultant must be gotten rid of, and we must get to the answers of why this debacle continues to evolve. And we are not finished yet with the November 2023 debacle of the list that was admittedly flawed in an affidavit in sworn evidence by DCP Samaru, where he says there was a glitch. So I want to thank you very much, and I want to pass you to my colleagues. I trust that I have not imposed on your time, members of the media. Thank you very much.
Good morning again, everyone, members of the media, for joining us. And Mr. Singh, thank you very much for that very comprehensive analysis of that very recent High Court decision involving the Commissioner of Police and Mr. Mark Hernandez. This morning, I have a few matters of national interest that I would like to focus on, namely the imminent resignation of the Prime Minister, what is happening at the Parliament, matters of the state of emergency, a recent hearing of the Court of Appeal involving Mr. Vincent Nelson, and lastly, some points I just want to touch on with respect to Odyssey Inc. This morning in the Trinidad Guardian, I read a headline by Kevin Felmin and Derice Polo titled Rowley Not Revealing His Retirement Date, Trinidad Guardian. And in this article, the Prime Minister, when asked when is he resigning, he said not yet. And then when Minister Imbert was asked at the commissioning of the 2 scanners at the port of Port of Spain, Imbert hinted that it may be after the Prime Minister has a practical completion or practical opening of the airport in Tobago. Now, I don't know what exactly is a practical opening of the airport, but what I can tell you is that not a plane will land there when Rowley cuts the ribbon, simply because it's not an operational opening of that airport. This is all political gimmickry for a failed Prime Minister to cut a ribbon to say that he did something in the last 10 years. Rowley is treating his resignation as though it's a private matter and he's going on vacation. The resignation of a Prime Minister in any modern democracy has very serious implications with respect to the governance of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of he is the head of the government. He cannot treat this as a date in his back pocket. This will affect trade, it will affect the industry, it will affect several areas of constitutional offices. Rowley has to be very clear with the population and stop playing games and tell us exactly when is the resignation date. Are you waiting for an airport to open to resign? Why didn't you run the full term then? But according to the statement of the political leader, Rowley, just go. Just go. This is the only country where Stuart Young acts as Prime Minister while the substantive Prime Minister is still in the country. He, right now, Mr. Young, he is salivating on his side, just awaiting for Rowley to announce the resignation date. But it seems as though there's a leadership crisis within the PNM. Because if the Minister of Finance, Minister Imbert, is unaware of the date of resignation of the Prime Minister, then are the other members of the cabinet aware? They right now are split on several decisions, and that will lead to serious instability in the governance of Trinidad and Tobago in their last days of office. So we need to be very clear, and the Prime Minister has to be very forthcoming with the country. Your resignation is not a private matter. It is a public matter, and the population needs to know. You ought to treat the population with the respect that they deserve. And from that point, I want to take you to the other issue. The last time the Parliament met would have been on February 5th, 2025. And that was basically a sit-in to confirm the Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police, one Mr. Benjamin as Acting Commissioner of Police, and Mr. Kurt Simon as Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police after the arrest of Ms. Erla Harewood Christopher. The Parliament has not been summoned since the 5th of February. Have they shut down the Parliament? The Parliament is a place where the opposition has a voice, and today the government has not, in fact, indicated when next we'll be meeting. I believe Minister Imbert in the same Guardian article said that they will come back to tweak some bits of legislation. The Minister of Works has some legislation, I believe, with respect to number plates and things like that. This is the kind of answers that we are getting from a very senior, if not the most senior member of the cabinet, that they don't even have a proper legislative agenda to guide us for the next few weeks or months before the Parliament is finally dissolved after its 5-year term. And these are very serious matters that this government consistently for the last 10 years did not have a proper legislative agenda to guide the governance of Trinidad and Tobago. And that shows that they have failed almost in every single aspect of governance, and namely that of national security. This is probably the only state of emergency in the world where you proclaim a state of emergency to arrest criminals and you end up arresting the commissioner of police. It is the only state of emergency where we can discover that 25 rounds of ammunition went missing, 25,000 rounds of ammunition, military-grade ammunition, went missing from the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. And this morning in the Trinidad Express, I then read an article titled, "Bar Hopping for Loose Gun." This Express article indicated that 2 soldiers and 2 Coast Guard men were on a confidence patrol, and they are now being probed following one of them losing a SIG pistol and ammunition when they all went bar hopping last Thursday. Now, this is astonishing in this country. 4 members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force were on patrol on the 20th of February. The men, according to the article, first visited an area in the Beetham Gardens where they took a drink. This is what the article says. The officers later went to Sealots and then visited someone in St. Joseph before proceeding to a bar on the Lady Young Road called Stats. They proceeded to Curep, where another stop was made before heading to Cunupia. The members of the patrol deviated from their designated area of operations, said a senior army source in the Know About investigation. It then goes on to say that the Express was reliably informed that the officers went to Cunupia area late on Thursday night and parked on Warren Road when the four officers left the vehicle to relieve themselves. The private who was driving the vehicle removed his loaded pistol containing 15 rounds of ammunition from his leg holster and placed it on the back tire of the vehicle before relieving himself. The Lance Corporal was at the front of the vehicle while the 2 Coast Guard officers relieved themselves at the side. The private then returned to the vehicle with the rest of the team and drove away. They went later to KFC to buy chicken, where the private told the officer that the weapon was missing. They returned to the scene and looked for the pistol for several hours into the morning, but were unsuccessful. This is what is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. This is the madness that is taking place in this country. Yet the government has a policy with respect to refusing firearms to law-abiding citizens, indicating that those firearms are somehow deviating into the hands of the criminal elements, when we have seen recklessness in this country by some members of the law enforcement department. We have seen recklessness in governance with respect to what, and I don't want to prejudice any investigation, but what is being done by the highest of public officials in this country. And there's a consistent policy in this government to ensure that persons who deserve firearms, law-abiding citizens, are not getting those firearms. Many of them have to seek redress to the courts of law in this country in order for even a decision to be made after they were granted a provisional firearm in this country. And that is a very serious matter. That is why part of the policy of the United National Congress and our manifesto policy is that we will ensure that there is a fair, transparent, and expeditious system in order for the granting of FULs in this country to law-abiding citizens so that they can stand their ground against the criminal elements in Trinidad and Tobago. Because we have reached a point in time where the government has failed. So today, the government cannot account for 25,000 rounds of ammunition gone missing. There was a previous court matter where the Commissioner of Police was ordered to return about 1,200 rounds of ammunition to a particular firearms dealer. And when they returned the ammunition, 500 rounds of 9mm ammunition was missing. These are very serious matters that we have to ensure that we raise in the public interest to show the governance of what is taking place under the failed Fitzgerald Hines, the failed Stuart Young, and the failed Keith Rowley. Then, today, also, the Trinidad Newsday published an article entitled "Vincent Nelson tries again to appeal conviction. And Vincent Nelson in this matter was represented by Edward Fitzgerald, King's Counsel. And Mr. Fitzgerald made some very damning statements against the former Attorney General, Mr. Faris Al-Rawi, in terms of the conduct of that particular prosecution. And the article is quoted by saying that Fitzgerald detailed correspondence between Al-Rawi, the National Crime Agency, and Attorney Roger K. Singh, which he argued demonstrated a clear promise that Nelson would not be prosecuted due to his role as a whistleblower. So just to refresh our memories, Vincent Nelson was promised certain goodies to give evidence against two political opponents of this country, Mr. Gerald Ramdeen and Mr. Anand Ramlogan. And based on giving that notarized statement, he was given certain promises by the previous government, and in particular the office holder, former Attorney General. The King's Counsel is telling the Court of Appeal in this country that he, the former AG, is saying that this man should not be prosecuted. Fitzgerald told the court, how can one read that other than him saying the others should be prosecuted, but Vincent Nelson should not? He suggested that Nelson may have been tricked into providing evidence only to be prosecuted afterwards. It may have been a false promise, a trick, an overreach, Fitzgerald argued, but we say that a promise was made. Why did he make the notarized statement which put his head in a noose, Fitzgerald asked. He was told to make a statement, then you would get paid, and if you do not, he would carry on appealing and you would never get your money. According to Fitzgerald, 3 days after Nelson submitted his notarized statement, he was paid 1 million British pounds. There is an awful lot we have come to the bottom of this case, Fitzgerald told the court. He maintained that Al-Rawi's conduct, promising immunity, a pardon, and payments amounted to an abuse of process. Can you imagine that, Trinidad and Tobago? That a King's Counsel is telling our local Court of Appeal that a former Attorney General, a PNM government, promised a particular witness to give evidence against a political opponent, and if you don't give the evidence, we're going to continue appealing this matter. And as soon as he provided the notarized statements against his political opponents, 3 days later, you were paid 1 million British pounds. These are the statements being made in the local courts. These are the statements, Trinidad and Tobago. In any other democratic society, an entire government would have collapsed because of a matter like this. The entire government would have fallen. This is the height of political persecution. And if they can persecute political opponents like this, imagine what they will do to the ordinary people in this country. Imagine what they will do. These are very serious matters, Trinidad and Tobago. Very serious matters. The PNM is known for their dirty hands. And the last point I wish to raise this morning, very briefly, is in particular the judgment of Mark Hernandez and the Commissioner of Police, as was described by Mr. Jagdeo Singh. And on reading the judgment, as correctly pointed out by Mr. Singh, the angle that I would take this from is in particular focusing on Odyssey Incorporated. And I'll start at the end of the judgment because it's important to go there. At paragraph 143 of the judgment, where the court made the orders, it made this order. The court hereby declares that the actions of Odyssey Consult Inc. Limited, being the person appointed by the first name defendant, which is the Commissioner of Police, in the exercise of powers conferred by Section 17A1 of the Act, to appoint persons to the respective panels who do not possess the appropriate skill, expertise, and qualification in policing, and particularly to assess persons seeking promotion to the rank of ASP, was irrational, unreasonable, illegal. That is in fact a declaration by the court. Odyssey Inc. According to the annual returns of Odyssey Inc. filed on the 18th of December 2024, a copy which I have in my possession, which was pulled from the company's registry. Odyssey Inc., this big company, according to their own document, only has 3 employees. The shareholders of the company are June Park Watkins and Leonard Anthony Watkins. The directors are Leonard Anthony Watkins, June Park Watkins, Trevlyn Stephanie Paul Tewitt, and Asha Ayodele Watkins Monsterin. And the secretary of the company is Russell Orlando Huggins. And the reason why I call out these names is because these are very important matters. Here we have what's supposed to be the independent Trinidad and Tobago Police Service conducting promotion exercises for the first division of the TTPS. They retained a company called Odyssey Inc. Limited. Odyssey Inc. Limited director Leonard Anthony Watkins is also a person who was handpicked by the Prime Minister to serve on a particular committee called the Community Recovery Committee, and I could ask the team to please put up that on the screen. There's a copy of the LinkedIn profile, and there's also a photograph of Mr. Watkins. On the LinkedIn profile, you will see that he's the director of Odyssey, and also he has been handpicked by the Prime Minister to serve as the chairman of the Community Recovery Committee. That was a committee established after the uprising at East Port of Spain in 2020. And there's a photograph there. And, you know, when you look at the photograph, you also see Mr. Hans de Veens there, and we know which capacity Mr. Hans de Veens is now serving in. Asha Watkins Monsterin happens to be a member of the chambers of Mr. Keith Scotland. He is in charge of the TTPS as Junior Minister of National Security. The attorney at law who represented Odyssey Inc. in the court is one Miss Keisha Kidd Hannibal, who is also a member of the chambers of Mr. Keith Scotland, and also represented by Hosein Jr. And I wonder whether or not, I am not casting any aspersions, but whether or not he is related to the Minister of National Security. And also, Mr. Russell Orlando Huggins believed he served as a former PNM senator and held ministerial capacity in the past. And this company coincidentally happens to get the contract to do all of the promotions within the TTPS. So we now beg the question, is this company, Odyssey Inc., in any way affiliated with the People's National Movement? Is it? Or is it not? We hope that we can get a statement out of Odyssey Inc. to clear up this matter. The second matter is this. During the Standing Finance Committee, we would have asked various questions in fiscal year 2023 about this Odyssey Inc. company. And this is the response we got on the 1st of November 2023. And based on previous consultancy work that they have done, in January 2023, Odyssey was paid $128,000. In March 2023, they were paid $128,000 again. In July 2023, they were paid $253,000. And in September 2023, they were paid $126,000. So for calendar year 2023, they were paid $636 million, $636,000, $636,000, $6 million. So Odyssey Inc. was paid $0.6 million. And today I call upon DCP George and I call upon Acting Commissioner Benjamin, tell us exactly how much Odyssey Inc. was paid for this promotional exercise that was quashed and cost the taxpayers money. And if you do not break your silence to give us that information, we will have to invoke the provisions of the law in order to get that information. But out of transparency and accountability as public office holders, we anticipate that after this press conference, we will have the answers being provided by DCP George or Acting Commissioner Benjamin on how much money Odyssey Inc. was paid. And also, tell us how much money this matter cost, because there was senior counsel hired in this matter, how much money this matter cost the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. This has very serious implications with respect to the governance of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And just to pick up on two other points with respect to this judgment, and when you read this judgment, you will believe it's a comic book. Because when you see the statements being made against the judge, how unbelievable some of these matters are, they were basically assessing persons. They have to get performance appraisal. Everyone should know who are employed what is a performance appraisal. Apparently, the TTPS is not in the habit of conducting regular performance appraisal. So in this matter, they gave all of the applicants a performance appraisal of outstanding. Everybody got outstanding. And the panel, to have conducted the interviews after you reach the third stage, the court found that of all of the panelists, one may have been qualified, which is Mr. Snaggs. And when I look through the resume of the others, I see some are versed in insurance and some in tourism, but they are deciding on who shall serve in the first division of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. If this is not madness, I don't know what is. I know we are in the season of Carnival and Bacchanal, but this clearly is serious, serious madness that is taking place in our country. So these are all of the matters that I wish to raise today with you, members of the media and those who are listening to us over the World Wide Web. We are now open, myself and Mr. Singh, to take questions, if you have any, from members of the media.
All right. Mr. Hosein, Mr. Singh, good morning. Thank you so much for having us. I'll just stick on the point that you're leaving on and one that brought us here as it pertains to Odyssey Consultancy, right? Are there concerns at this time, with respect to these claims of incompetence on the part of Odyssey? There's a perception, a public perception, that there's a lot of incompetence itself within the police service. Do you believe that as a result of the promotion exercise and its apparent subjectivity, its lack of it being based on merit, that we tend to have a lot of square pegs and round holes, and it's why the police service is perhaps in the position that it continues to be in, where officers are struggling, they appear to be struggling, they appear to be not fit for the job based on public perception. What are your thoughts about that?
I'll answer this question in the first context. We have to look at the top first. The United National Congress position has always been that we are dissatisfied with the position and also the performance of Ms. Ella Herrick Christopher. She served at the pinnacle of the police service. And when that appointment came to the Parliament, that was supported by the Parliament and she was subsequently approved. We have raised serious concerns of what happens at the Police Service Commission because they determine really the candidate that comes to the Parliament. We don't do that. All we do is just approve the name based on a resume given to us. And for several times, as Mr. Singh has called, we have called for reform of that entire process from first division all the way down in terms of recruitment exercises. And that is something that we have looked at with respect to formulating policies going forward into government, because that is an issue that we have not only in the TTPS, but in other parts of the public service. And those are matters that we will look at. And I'll ask Mr. Singh to share his views on it also.
I think it has to be looked at in this context. The exercise as envisaged by the Constitution, the Police Service Act and the accompanying regulations seeks to take the subjectivity aspect or to diminish the subjectivity aspect. And that is why you have the performance appraisal and you have the examination results, which account for a large part of the mark. So the only area which is open to subjectivity is the interview. But where you have a system which is implemented, where the performance appraisal are essentially discarded, everyone gets even marks across the board, that takes away one level of objectivity, diminishes that completely. Then the examination part, which is supposed to bolster the objectivity aspect of it, is also diminished. what are you left with? You are left with the subjective element. That subjective element can be weighted in favor of hand-picked and hand-chosen candidates. The framers of the Constitution and the Act and the legislation, that objectivity aspect component serves a legitimate public purpose, and the legitimate public purpose is to mitigate against hand-picked and hand-chosen incompetent and inefficient officers rising to the top, so as to prevent the police service from falling into the hands of persons who may wish to weaponize it for ulterior motives. So where you completely diminish the objective aspect of it, the prevalence of the subjective aspect is frightening in its purport. Because what you have, you've opened the stable door essentially for hand-picked and hand-chosen candidates to ascend the ranks.
Let me ask this. There's been arguments put forward time after time that the police service is a political tool, right? You've alluded to the composition of Odyssey and its membership being affiliated with the PNM. Is this a particular concern that, this bolsters the argument or gives more merit to the argument that perhaps the police service is indeed a political tool and one that does biddings for office holders?
Can I answer that and invite you to look at the affidavit sworn to by Mr. Watkins, where he gives the details of all of the persons who participated in the panels. And I ask you to do a simple search, and you will see almost every single one of them are serving on state boards now, political appointees. So the confluence of circumstances really just point to an literally unimpeachable conclusion to be drawn. Here it is you have, and this, bear in mind that this is a process which all measure of objectivity was removed. So the promotion essentially hinged on the subjective element. And you have persons populating those panels who are all political appointees by large measure to boards.
And I'll also answer your question in this way too, Jesse. Let's look at the history. SRP Kate hired to investigate a political opponent. Prime Minister admitting that he pulled a merit list from the President's house with the appointment of a Commissioner of Police. A former Commissioner of Police confirming that an allocation of $40 million was given to his office to persecute political opponents. We have also matters involving the closeness of relationship between politicians and also members of the TTPS. And today we have, it's an irresistible inference that we can only draw that the PNM is involved and they influence certain police decisions. That's it. Okay, I want to thank you all very much, members of the media. Again, thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for taking time off to join us this morning. We do wish everyone a happy carnival season. Please be safe. And also, tonight being a very auspicious night for our Hindu brothers and sisters, the celebration of Mahashivratri, we want to ensure that everyone is safe also as you venture out late tonight into the wee mornings with respect to those celebrations. And we expect that we would be looking out for the sighting of the moon on Friday evening to commence the beginning of Ramadan. And I want to wish my brothers and sisters Ramadan Mubarak in advance. And we will inform you and keep you updated when our next meetings and or press conferences will be held. So thank you very much again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Everybody now, let's go. Come on, come on. Hey. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh,
But one of the things I promised is that we will listen to what's happening around, and we've been listening, and whatever we could have done, we've been doing so far. You're bigger than what I remember you last time, so we're standing up to make a difference in this country, boy. You know, and we're interested in making sure that in San Fernando West, we are listening to what the issues are. I just talked to Supers there, he tell me about the water situation on that side. In speaking with all of our constituents in San Fernando West, crime was highlighted, issues of drainage, garbage collection, and we spoke to the Alderman Viliana Ramota Singh and all our councillors, and they really went to the city and ensured that something was done about it. The team here is in San Fernando West. We are on the ground, so I want to see what's happening around West St. Joseph with my friend Devish.
Davis March, I'm the UNC candidate. West St. Joseph. What's your name?
Braffett.
Braffett?
Yeah.
Braffett, how old are you, boy?
68.
Nah.
As a young man.
He's okay, 52, boy.
We started building it back here before too much went on the other side that we had to come down to First Street. So, like somebody know the minister, and they get box trains and paved road and all kind of stuff up to the drain. We on the other side of the drain. You know the story about the other side of the tracks. We on the other side of the drain. So we ain't getting fixed up and we getting flooded. I would just like to know that we have somebody there who we could talk to.
Right now we are on 7th Street, Mount Lambert. I have met so many lovely people on this street. Very reserved, some of them, but they've all come out and they've given us very, very encouraging comments. Some of them have openly declared their support, for which I am very, very thankful. Others at least saying they will consider and think about it, but really, really a wonderful community. I have had no pushback from anybody whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's very, very welcoming. Thank you very much. When UNC win, everybody wins.